Oh, you thought they buried you, didn't you? You thought when they scattered those lies like poison seeds across every conversation, every platform, every whispered circle, that you were done. You thought when they crafted those stories, those twisted half-truths wrapped in malice, dressed up as concern, that your name would rot in the graveyard of their narratives. But here's the plot twist they never saw coming. Here's the cosmic joke that's got them choking on their own venom right now. Those lies. Yeah, those exact fabrications they spread to destroy you. They've become your legend. They've become the folklore of your greatness. They've become the myths that people study to understand how a soul survives assassination and comes back wearing a crown made of their bullets. Welcome to the resurrection they can't explain, the comeback they can't compute, the transformation that's rewriting every filthy chapter they tried to close on you. Let's talk about what actually happened here, because this needs to be said out loud, needs to be screamed from every rooftop they tried to push you off. They gathered in their little circles, didn't they? Those architects of destruction, those cowards who couldn't defeat you face to face, so they weaponized words instead. They took your silence and called it guilt. They took your kindness and called it manipulation. They took your strength and called it arrogance. They took your healing and called it pretending. They took your boundaries and called it coldness. Every single thing you did, every move you made, every breath you took, got filtered through their projector of poison, translated into their language of lies, broadcast to anyone who'd listen. And people listened. Oh, they listened. Because a good story about a fall is always more entertaining than the truth about someone rising, isn't it? They fed the masses your manufactured downfall, served it up like gospel, watched it spread like wildfire through communities that never even knew your name but somehow already decided you were the villain. But here's what they forgot. Here's the detail that slipped through their scheming fingers while they were too busy celebrating what they thought was your funeral. Lies have a lifespan. Truth has eternity. Lies need constant maintenance, constant reinforcement, constant energy to keep them inflated because they're balloons full of nothing, and the moment someone stops blowing air into them, they deflate and die. But truth is a seed. And even when you bury it 6 feet under concrete and hatred, it finds a crack, it finds light. It breaks through the surface when everyone stopped watching. And that's exactly what happened. Your truth didn't need you to defend it. Your truth didn't need you to fight for it. Your truth didn't need witnesses or lawyers or evidence presented in the court of public opinion. Your truth just needed time, and you gave it that time by doing something absolutely revolutionary in this age of reaction and defense. You stayed silent. You stayed focused. You stayed building while they stayed talking. And now comes the part that's got them losing sleep. The part that's rewritten their entire mission. Those lies they spread, those carefully constructed stories designed to be your epitaph, people are now using them as proof of your greatness. Think about that. Sit with that. Let that sink into every cell that ever doubted whether silence was the right strategy. They said you were too ambitious, and now people look at your empire and say, of course they came for someone this powerful. They said you were cold, and now people see your boundaries and say, that's how legends protect their energy. They said you were fake, and now people watch your consistency and say, that's the discipline of someone who knew their worth all along. They said you were manipulative, and now people see your influence and say, that's what mastery looks like to the mediocre. Every single lie has become evidence. Every single attack has become testament. Every single attempt to diminish you has become proof that you were always the giant they couldn't reach. So they tried to shrink you with stories instead. The transformation of their poison into your power isn't magic, it's mathematics. It's the inevitable outcome, when lies meet sustained truth, when projections meet authentic presence, when hatred meets someone who refuses to hate themselves. You see, they operated on a fundamental miscalculation, a fatal flaw in their entire strategy. They assumed you'd break. They bet everything on the belief that sustained lies would eventually crack your foundation, that if enough people believed the fiction they'd created, you'd start believing it too. They thought social pressure would reshape your identity, that isolation would force you to doubt your own narrative, that eventually you'd come crawling back, desperate for acceptance, willing to become whatever they needed you to be just to make the attacks stop. They thought they were destroying you, but they were actually testing you, and you passed every single examination they didn't even realize they were administering. Because here's what happened in that crucible of lies, in that furnace of false narratives, in that wilderness of slander and whispers and manufactured outrage. You learned something they'll never understand, something that separates the legends from the forgotten, something that divides those who survive from those who transcend. You learned that your identity cannot be voted on. You learned that your truth doesn't require consensus. You learned that your worth isn't determined by how many people believe the stories about you, but by how unshakable you remain when the whole world seems convinced of a fiction. They were teaching you invincibility and didn't even know it. Every lie was a test of your foundation. Every rumor was a question. Do you know who you are when everyone says you're someone else? And you answered, not with words, not with explanations, not with the frantic defense they were counting on. You answered with presence. You answered with results. You answered with a life that contradicted every narrative they'd constructed. And the people, the ones who matter, the ones with eyes that can see beyond the smoke, they started noticing something. They started seeing the gap, the glaring chasm between what was said about you and what you actually were. They watched you move in silence while your accusers screamed. They watched you build while your enemies broadcast. They watched you grow while the people who claimed to know your secrets stayed exactly where they were, stuck in the quicksand of their own bitterness. And slowly, then suddenly, the narrative flipped. The lies became legends, not because they were true, but because they revealed the level of threat you posed. Only someone extraordinary gets that much coordinated hatred. Only someone destined for greatness inspires that level of organized destruction. Only someone who was already winning gets attacked by an alliance of losers, pretending to be concerned citizens. The streets started talking, and what they said would make your former executioners sick to their stomachs if they had the capacity for honest reflection. You know why they came for them so hard? Because they saw the future and knew they couldn't compete. You notice how everyone who spread those lies is still exactly where they were 5 years ago? The fact that they survived all that and still succeeded tells you everything you need to know. Your silence became legendary. Your comeback became mythical. Your refusal to engage became the ultimate power move, studied and quoted and referenced as the blueprint for how to handle betrayal in the age of instant character assassination. The very people who once nodded along with the lies now use your story as proof that lies can't stop destiny, that slander can't kill purpose, that a coordinated attack from small minds is just confirmation that you were never meant to stay small. But let's go deeper, because there's a layer here that needs to be excavated, a truth about this whole dynamic that explains why your victory cuts so deep, why their failure hurts them so completely. When they spread those lies, they weren't just trying to damage your reputation, they were trying to rewrite reality itself. They needed you to be what they said you were because your actual existence threatened their entire worldview. If you were really the good person you presented as, if you were really as talented as you appeared, if you were really as principled as you claimed, then what did that make them? If you could achieve what you achieved without compromising, without cutting corners, without becoming the monster they'd normalized being, then their entire justification system collapsed. They needed you to be secretly terrible because that would mean everyone's secretly terrible and they're just more honest about it. So they projected. They took every dark corner of their own psychology and painted it onto you. They accused you of the exact manipulations they practice daily. They called you arrogant for the confidence they wished they had. They called you fake for maintaining composure they'd never mastered. They called you calculated for having the strategy they lacked. Every accusation was a confession. Every lie was a revelation about them. And the world, slowly but inevitably, started reading between the lines, started seeing the accusations as X-rays of the accusers' souls. When someone says you're selfish, and you're literally sacrificing daily for your vision, people notice. When someone calls you disloyal, and you've never betrayed a principle, people take notes. When someone screams that you're dangerous and you're just existing peacefully in your purpose, people start asking why someone working so hard to destroy you. The lies made you stronger not because you're superhuman, but because they forced you into a position where you had only two choices: become what they said or become undeniable. There was no middle ground. You couldn't be medium and survive that level of attack. You couldn't be average and withstand that magnitude of coordinated destruction. The lies demanded excellence from you. They demanded that you become so clear in your purpose that no amount of distortion could blur it. They demanded that you build something so real that fantasy couldn't compete. They demanded that you develop such unshakable self-knowledge that no external narrative could penetrate. They were trying to kill you, but they were actually forging you, tempering you, turning you from raw material into refined steel. And now here you stand, and the irony must be absolutely exquisite. The people who spread the lies are now watching those same lies being used as credentials for your greatness. They must have been incredible to inspire that much jealousy. Anyone who survived that kind of coordinated attack and still made it has to be studied. The lies they told have become the legend. We're all trying to understand. Your enemies became your biographers. Your haters became your historians. Your attempted executioners became the authors of your mythology. They spent years trying to write your ending and accidentally wrote your origin story instead. They tried to create your obituary and created your introduction to eternity instead. Let's talk about the anatomy of this reversal, because it's important to understand the mechanics, the precise mechanism by which lies transform into legend, how poison becomes power, how attacks become armor. It starts with the quality of your response, or rather, your lack of traditional response. Most people, when lied about, go into defense mode immediately. They gather evidence, they prepare rebuttals, they call witnesses, they fight fire with fire, they match energy for energy. And in doing so, they validate the lie by acknowledging it needs to be addressed. They give it oxygen, they give it attention, they give it the very thing lies need to survive: engagement. But you did something different. You acted as if the lies existed in a different dimension entirely, one you simply didn't occupy. You didn't ignore them out of weakness or fear. You ignored them out of clarity. You knew that every second spent defending against fiction was a second stolen from building reality. So while they talked, you worked. While they gossiped, you strategized. While they held court in their echo chambers, you held counsel with your vision. While they perfected the art of tearing down, you mastered the science of building up. And the gap between you and them started widening, slowly at first, then exponentially. Every day you didn't engage was a day you pulled further ahead. Every moment you didn't waste energy on defense was a moment invested in offense against your own limitations. Every hour they spent maintaining lies was an hour you spent creating truth. The math was always in your favor. They just didn't realize they were in a race where their weapon was making them slower and yours was making you faster. Then comes the second factor, the erosion of credibility. Lies, especially coordinated ones, require consistency to maintain believability. The story has to stay straight. The narrative has to remain coherent. The players have to remember their lines. But humans are terrible at sustaining fiction, especially when that fiction contradicts observable reality. So cracks started appearing. Someone would tell version A of the lie, while someone else told version B. Details would change. Timelines would shift. The story would get more dramatic with each retelling until it became obviously absurd. Meanwhile, You remained remarkably consistent because truth doesn't require memorization. It just requires existence. Your story stayed straight because it was real. Your narrative remained coherent because it wasn't constructed. Your life testified on your behalf without you having to say a word. The third factor is the most devastating for them: results. You can lie about someone's character, but you can't lie about their outcomes. You can fabricate stories about someone's methods, but you can't fabricate their achievements. You can create fiction about someone's intentions, but you can't create fiction about their impact. And as time passed, your results started speaking a language that was impossible to misinterpret. Your success became bilingual. It told the truth about you while simultaneously exposing the lies they'd spread. Every milestone you reached was a rebuttal. Every goal you accomplished was a closing argument. Every victory you secured was a verdict. The courtroom of public opinion might have been swayed by their opening statements, but the evidence you presented through simply living your purpose was overwhelming, irrefutable, undeniable. And that's when the legend began. People started reverse engineering your journey, trying to figure out how someone survives that level of attack, and not just survives, but thrives. Not just thrives, but ascends. They looked at the magnitude of lies spread about you, and instead of seeing smoke, they saw fire. They reasoned, correctly, that only someone truly exceptional inspires that level of coordinated effort to destroy them. Normal people don't get that kind of attention. Average individuals don't warrant that kind of strategic assault. The very intensity of the lies became proof of your extraordinariness. It's the same logic that applies to any great figure in history. Show me someone who changed the world, and I'll show you someone who was lied about, slandered, attacked, and doubted by the people too small to see the vision. The lies became your credentials. You know they spread those rumors about them, right? Yeah, and look where they are now. Makes you think. The conversation shifted from, "Did you hear what they did?" to, "Did you hear what they overcame?" The narrative transformed from scandal to inspiration. Your name went from being whispered in gossip circles to being referenced in motivational contexts. People started using your story as proof that you can survive betrayal, that you can outlast lies, that you can build a legacy so solid that fiction can't dent it. The very people who once participated in spreading the lies now claim they always knew you were going to make it, that they could tell you were different, that they never really believed the stories. The revisionist history is almost as entertaining as the original lies. And here's something they didn't count on, something that adds another layer to this already perfect reversal. The lies created curiosity. Before the attacks, you were just another person on a path, talented maybe, dedicated, sure, but not necessarily remarkable to those who didn't know you. But the moment they started spreading lies, the moment they coordinated their attack, they put a spotlight on you that you never asked for. They created intrigue. They manufactured mystery. They turned you into a puzzle that people wanted to solve. Why are they attacking this person so hard? What did they do to inspire this level of hatred? Who are they really? The lies didn't answer these questions. They asked them. And curious people don't just believe what they're told. They investigate. So people started watching you more closely, not to catch you slipping like your enemies hoped, but to understand the contradiction between what was being said and what they could observe. They watched your work ethic and saw discipline, not desperation. They watched your relationships and saw loyalty, not manipulation. They watched your responses and saw maturity, not guilt. They watched your growth and saw authenticity, not performance. Every single person who came to observe the monster they'd heard about found a human being instead. And not just any human being, but one who was clearly operating at a level that justified the jealousy they'd inspired. The lies created an audience for your excellence. Your enemies did your marketing for you. Think about the mechanics of this for a moment. because it's absolutely brilliant in its irony. In their attempt to isolate you, they made you more visible. In their effort to diminish you, they highlighted you. In their campaign to make you forgettable, they made you unforgettable. They turned you into the main character of a story everyone was following. And main characters, even when they're portrayed as villains, always get their redemption arc. Always get their moment where the truth comes out. Always get their scene where the lies crumble and the real story emerges. They wrote you into a narrative structure that guaranteed your eventual vindication. They just didn't realize they were following a script as old as storytelling itself. The wrongly accused, the falsely condemned, the unjustly attacked, always get their moment of truth. And when that moment came, when the cracks in their lies became canyons, when the contradictions became undeniable, when your results spoke louder than their rumors, the audience they'd created was already watching. You didn't have to gather people to witness your truth. They'd already gathered to witness your destruction, and they ended up witnessing your coronation instead. The stadium was already full. The seats were already taken. The attention was already focused. All you had to do was be yourself. And being yourself at that level of visibility, with that many eyes looking for the truth behind the lies, that's when legends are born. That's when ordinary people become extraordinary stories. That's when someone living their truth becomes someone teaching it. But let's go even deeper into the psychology of what happened here, because there's a phenomenon at play that your enemies completely underestimated. The human capacity to recognize authentic suffering versus performed victimhood. When they spread their lies, they positioned themselves as the victims of your supposed actions. They painted themselves as the wounded parties, the ones who had to speak out, the brave truth-tellers exposing a fraud. But there's a quality to real pain that can't be faked, and there's a desperation